everybody, it's your friendly digital technology librarian, Christy here. We've reached another Friday, so of course I have another Film Rec Friday for everybody out there. Now, last week we focused in on those Hallmark-style HEA happily ever after holiday films, and I can get that those are not always going to be everyone's cup of tea. They can certainly be predictable, they can be a bit saccharine, they are certainly sentimental. And if that's not what you're looking for, not going to fit the bill. But if you are looking for something soft, fluffy, romantic, they're kind of the perfect option. In any case, this week we are going in a very different direction. The picks for this week are kind of a holiday grab bag of sorts. There's not one single unifying theme between any of them. Other than that, they are awesome if you are looking for particular things that each film covers. And really, truly, some of these are phenomenal, phenomenal films that I would recommend at any point in time, whether it's the holidays or not. I've got titles that would appeal to horror fans. I've got titles that would appeal to classic film fans, dance fans, fans for campy 80s themes. It really, like I said, I tried to pick titles that would appeal to a really broad group of folks. So hopefully one of these will appeal to you in some way or other. Now, as always, these are entirely free with the use of your Milan-Berlin library card via one of our video services. Today's picks are all from either Hoopla Digital or Canopy, but there are also a ton of fantastic options available to you on CleveNet's Overdrive, so don't forget to check out that service as well. So without any further ado, I want to get to the recs. All right, my very first recommendation is from Hoopla Digital, and it's one of those movies that I mentioned I would recommend to anyone at any time of the year, and that's the Japanese animated film Tokyo Godfathers from 2003. Now, like I said, I don't care if you like animation or if you don't. This is a phenomenal, phenomenal film that you should absolutely watch. It's from the amazing director Satoshi Kon, who also did Paprika and Perfect Blue. Now, Kon has this remarkable ability to just really pull emotions out of his audiences. I don't know what it is about his style, but if you leave one of his films not feeling at least a little bit emotionally wrung out, I don't know. It's crazy how good he is. Anyway, this particular story takes place in a modern day Tokyo, and we're following these three homeless people who have sort of banded together to create a little found family of their own. The three have very little in common. You have a gentleman who is really just very down on his luck, a transgendered woman who has had some really difficult experiences in the recent past, and a young teenage runaway. I love the fact that these people from such very different backgrounds still manage to find the commonalities between them and bond together. They look out for each other. They are, for all intents and purposes, a family. And on Christmas Eve one year, they are distracted by some sounds and they discover this baby who's just been dumped, who's been abandoned. Despite things being incredibly difficult for the three of them, they decide to care for this baby. She's just all alone and they want to help. And they follow these clues that have been left with her as well to sort of piece together what happened, who would have possibly abandoned her, why, all of these things. And as they're going on this journey to find out more about the baby, they end up experiencing some pretty harrowing things. I mean, at one point there's a shootout, there's some hostage situations, there's definitely some deep introspection where we sort of hear about their backstories, some of which contain some pretty terrible things. It's just there's so many layers to this film. There really are, and it's just, I don't know, it's just such a beautiful, beautiful movie. And again, I just want to say, it doesn't matter if you like animation or not, this is still an extraordinary film that I think everybody should watch. So at the end of the day, we are looking at this found family going on an adventure to try and help or unfurl more about their newest potential fourth member. And I love stories like that. It's like these sort of like parables about journeys, and there's just something infinitely appealing about those stories. Now, beyond Satoshi Kon being a brilliant director, we've also got writing from uh, one of the co-writers of Cowboy Bebop, Keiko Nobumoto. You've got a fantastic score. The score is really, really great. So if you like music, you'll definitely find this one appealing. But yeah, if you like really well written stories that really tug at your heartstrings, but not in a saccharine way. If you like movies that have layered plots and incredible characters, because seriously, not just the three leads, but all of these side characters that you will meet while they're traveling and trying to unfurl the mystery are unbelievably interesting. You know that there's so much more going on beyond this couple of hours that we're with them. It's a really, really amazing movie. I know I've said that like 10,000 times at this point, but seriously, you have to watch it. So please, if you don't watch any other of these recommended films, make sure you check out Tokyo Godfathers. It's available on Hoopla. Absolute must watch. Moving along to my second recommendation. This one is also available on Hoopla, and it's for all of the dance fans out there. This is for the 1983 adaptation of The Nutcracker. It's one of those ballets that I have watched many, many times from the time when I was a really little child to just a couple of years ago. I don't know, there's something about the familiarity of the story, knowing, after certain passages of music, what's going to be coming next. It's just really comforting to watch. Oh, once the Nutcracker is performed, it's the holiday season. It's just like a fuzzy hug, but in toe shoes. Anyway, Nutcracker the Motion Picture was made in 1986. It was actually filmed, I believe, in 83 by the Pacific Northwest Ballet, and it is a really fantastic adaptation. The dancing is gorgeous. I mean, the woman who plays Clara is just... I mean, her lines are crazy. She's just a beautiful, beautiful dancer. But the whole cast is amazing. You get all of your familiar scenes, whether it's the battle between the toy soldiers and the mice brigade, or the Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairies. Any of the scenes that you would expect are going to be in here, and they're all really beautifully performed. Costuming is gorgeous. Set design. Now, here's the interesting thing. It is very much a filmed stage adaptation for the most part, so you do still have that sort of sitting in the audience looking at a performance kind of feel. You're not going to get these really modernized 360-degree filmed shots in the same way. I mean, like, it's not... Say, like the new West Side Story film adaptation or the old West Side Story film adaptation, you are part of the movie. No, you are still watching a stage play, which I really like. I love that sort of thing. So I guess on that point, it sort of depends on your preferences. But if you do like that feeling of actual stage performance, you are the audience, they are on stage, and everything feels pretty much like that, you'll probably like this particular adaptation. Now, there are two adaptations of Nutcracker that were put out around the same time. Like I said, this one is from 1986. And then there was another absolutely horrifically bad adaptation from 1993 that had Macaulay Culkin in it, of all things. I loved the Home Alone movies when I was a child. They were great. They were hilarious. Macaulay Culkin is not a dancer. He's not a ballet dancer. Please, please, please don't watch that version. If you want to watch a version of the Nutcracker, watch this one. Or go see the actual ballet. But yeah, forget about the 93 one. It doesn't exist. It's gone. Somewhere over there. Anyway, if you do like ballet, if you are someone who's interested in introducing your kids to dance in a really accessible way, like the story is really kid friendly for the most part. If you just really like the music of Tchaikovsky, if you are like me and are somebody who has always had a fondness for this particular stage production, and you just want to be able to see it again without going out to an actual theater, check out Nutcracker the Motion Picture from 1983. It is a really, really, really well done adaptation, and I think you'll really enjoy it. My next recommendation is also available on Hoopla Digital, and this one is for all the classic Hollywood film fans out there. It's from 1950, and it's called A Christmas Wish. Actually, it's called A Christmas Wish, but it's also known as The Great Rupert, so you may know it from its alternative title. And in any case, this is the perfect movie for people who are looking for a classic Hollywood film Christmas movie that isn't necessarily like It's a Wonderful Life or Miracle on 34th Street. It's still incredibly charming and definitely sentimental, but also really, really funny and just thoroughly enjoyable. So if you like classic films at all, I definitely recommend this one. In A Christmas Wish, we're following a gentleman who was once a vaudeville performer. His name is Louis Amendola. He and his family are just unfortunately down on their luck. They are about to become homeless. They manage to find a small, really sad-looking apartment, but they have no idea how they're going to pay, but they're not going to tell the landlord right now because they need somewhere. And it's just to their good fortune that they decide to do that because little do they know that the apartment's landlord has stashed this cache of money above them, like ill-gotten gains, and with the help of a crafty little squirrel, the Great Rupert, they manage to become the possessors of this money. And they don't know that it's like the landlord's. They think it's just like they honestly think it's a Christmas miracle. So there's just a lot of hilarity that ensues. Again, it is definitely like silly and sentimental, but it's charming and it's funny and it's fun, and it's definitely one of those films that the whole family can watch. The particular version that I have linked to below is for the colorized version, but there's also a black and white version if you prefer the original format that's available on Hoopla too. So, there's not a lot to say beyond that. It's just a really great classic film. So if you like classic movies, if you like, say, stars that were huge at the time, like Jimmy Durante plays Louis Amendola, I think Frank Orth plays the landlord, but yeah, everybody in it is really, really solid. You've got great performances, and just that squirrel is just awesome. Let me just tell you, the squirrel is awesome. So if you are looking for a classic Christmas film and you don't want something that maybe everybody and their mother has seen 10,000 times, check out A Christmas Wish, also known as The Great Rupert. It's available on Hoopla in both black and white and in a colorized version. I think you'll like it. Okay, so my next film, again, available on Hoopla Digital, is a little bit different from the other ones that I've recommended so far. This one is very definitely for people who are looking for a movie that is kind of so bad it's good territory, especially if you happen to be an 80s child. There are so many nods to that entire era that it instantly becomes enjoyable simply because of that, let alone all of the other things, which I'll get to in a minute. But the film is the 1986 adaptation and take on Babes in Toyland. I had actually forgotten that this film existed, which is potentially a good thing. It's a doozy, let me tell you. But it's a phenomenal film to watch with friends. I watched it by myself in my apartment thinking, oh, I shouldn't enjoy this as much as I do. But I think if I watched it with a couple of my best friends, it would have been infinitely more enjoyable. And it was still enjoyable because it's funny. It's funny for a lot of reasons. It's funny in particular because you see so many familiar faces. One familiar face in particular is Keanu Reeves, fresh off of his success with Bill and Ted, and I mean, you're essentially watching you're essentially watching that character on screen. And it's great. I mean, it's not great acting, but it is great. You also have Drew Barrymore in her awkward teen years. Not a great performer either, but again, highly entertaining. You've got tons of other really familiar faces, some of whom are actually really solid actors, like Eileen Brennan, Richard Mulligan, Pat Morita. I love Pat Morita. He plays the toy maker in this, and I just always love him in pretty much anything. But yeah, I mean, you get all of this huge sense of nostalgia when you watch, just because the familiar faces, both of the really mainstream people who, like Keanu Reeves, Drew Barrymore, are still huge names today. I mean, who would have believed that we would have this sort of Renaissance era of Keanu Reeves in 2021 when you look back at the 1980s Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure? I mean, maybe you did see the potential for awesomeness. I was not one of those people. But still, so kids who've seen like the John Wick movies, who've seen the Matrix films, like they get the chance to see some of his earlier work, brilliant as it is. But at the heart of it, you still got that basic Babes in Toyland story, which I always enjoy. The whole concept of a village that's made up of nursery rhyme characters. So again, very familiar characters. Jack Be Nimble, Mary Contrary, Old Mother Hubbard, all of those you get to see, and you get to see how they interact. And so on that level, it's a lot of fun. It's a sweet story. A group of friends banding together to fight against an evil doer who plans to change their town and make it worse. And then you have, like, the crotchety old toy maker who has to be convinced to help out. And again, Pat Morita, seriously, Karate Kid was like such a huge deal to me when I was a kid. Like I just loved that movie so much for so many reasons that I won't get into now. But I mean, again, Pat Morita's in this. Watch it for that, if nothing else. Pat Morita and Keanu Reeves. Very different reasonings behind those two, but it is what it is. Anyway, again, this is one of those campy good times, so bad it's good movies. It's not one that's going to make you think at all, but it's still just a good time. And sometimes that's what you want. So if you happen to be like an 80s kid and you're having a get together, throw this on just like for laughs, because it is hilarious. Not necessarily for the original intended hilarity of things, but you'll get what I mean. So if you like So Bad They're Good movies, if you like just like that sort of 80s nostalgia factor, if you are a Keanu Reeves devotee, or a Drew Barrymore devotee for that matter, make sure you check out the 1986 version of Babes in Toyland. It is a trip, and I think regardless of many things, it's a good time, and I highly recommend it. Moving along to our Canopy recommendations, the first of those is for the classic horror film Black Christmas from 1974. Now, I've frequently heard this described as the first slasher film, which is interesting. I'd not actually thought that was a subset of horror films that was that recent. It just feels like something that would be around for much longer. But, after looking back, I guess I really couldn't find other slasher films from much earlier than that. And this one is really quite well done. I love horror movies, but I've never been a slasher fan. It's never been my subset. I am a sentient plant person. Like, find me a horror movie about sentient plants and I will watch it. I will watch every second of it, even if everyone else on the planet says it's terrible. I really, really like that subgenre. But yeah, I just don't know much about slasher films, and this makes me kind of want to watch more of them. And you do see where tons of more contemporary slasher films like Scream and all of that absolutely look back to Black Christmas, because there are some direct callbacks, which I think is super cool. I love the whole concept of imitation as a sincerest form of flattery kind of thing within the horror genre in particular. But yeah, the cast in this too. I just keep drawing comparisons between the two films because there were so many things. Like you have Olivia Hussey from Zeffirelli's Romeo and Juliet playing your main character, Jess. Uh, she is a sorority sister, and it's the holiday season, and all of a sudden, she and the other girls in the house start getting these crazily obscene phone calls, and it's some of them are more laissez-faire about it. They like try and talk back to this guy on the phone, but he just gets more and more aggressive and kind of crazy over the phone. The one I'm thinking of in particular is played by Margot Kidder, who went on to be Lois Lane in the Superman movies. I mean, like I said, like, there are a lot of people in this film, and the phone calls are just, they really are unsettling. Like, and again, comparing the two films, they are incredibly unsettling. I was reading actually after I watched it about the audition process for the gentleman who does all of the phone voice work, and it was kind of fascinating. The director had him face away from him and just speak in a sort of deranged manner, and that's how they sort of developed the character, the voiceover character, and it's effective, man. Like, if I got those kinds of phone calls, like it would freak me out, like seriously. So it's very effective, very, very unsettling, and you know that bad things are coming, and bad things come, let me tell you. The way it's filmed as well, like any death scene is done in such a way that the point of view of the camera makes you feel very much a part of the scene, which is both an awesome and terribly unpleasant experience. So yeah, I don't think that I have really appreciated a slasher movie as much as I did this one. So if you happen to be a horror fan, but you don't like this particular subgenre, I say give it a try anyway, because this was really, really good. I can't believe I never watched this, to be perfectly honest. I mean, as someone who like studied film in school, like this is a movie that I should have probably watched. And as someone who loves horror movies, I absolutely should have watched this, but I'm really glad that I did now. If you just like horror movies and haven't actually delved into some of the classics, check this one out. If you like really well written thrillers too, if you like horror that is probably more unsettling than just scary, that does have some jump scares but isn't like in your face about it all the time, yeah, check this one out. Black Christmas from 1974. Man, this is really, really good. So please do check it out. Available on Canopy. Absolutely a must watch. All right, my final recommendation for this week, again from Canopy, is for the movie Bitter Melon from 2018. Now, I had never heard of this movie. I didn't know it existed, and I am so, so glad that I was able to watch it, because boy, was this one really, really well done. Now, Bitter Melon is a dark, dark, dark comedy, family drama, comedy, it blends so many genres, and it also has this marvelously absurdist tone to it as well, that I guess I don't get to see very often. There's just something about the whole overall vibe of this movie that was so enjoyable. So the story follows a Filipino-American family. It is getting together in San Francisco for a Christmas party, and they just happen to discover that one of the sons of the family is actually incredibly emotionally and physically abusive to other members. I don't know. It's kind of one of those family secrets that nobody talks about, but when a couple key members of the story finally do discover this dark secret, they decide that something has to be done, because the guy is a monster. Like, the character is just terrible, but he's terrible in a hilarious way. That's what that's what I found so fascinating about this movie while I'm watching it. The themes are incredibly intense. They're dark, they're important stories, but they're also portrayed in a way that makes you laugh uncomfortably, which I actually really liked about this movie. I mean, they made this monstrous character so awful that he's like stupidly awful. I don't know quite how to describe just how ridiculous his character is. I mean, and the fact that the family let this happen to itself for so long, it's frustrating. And I liked that because this sort of situation is awful and frustrating. And for some of the characters, you feel like the humiliation that the character has as well. Like how allowing these things to happen, it just, it's so wrong that they're almost paralyzed. So hidden under this veneer of humor is also this dark, dramatic thrust. Um, so anyway, you've got this family secret that's been uncovered, and one of the main characters decides that he's got to go, and they hatch a plan to murder him. Now, this is where it gets like kind of ridiculous and crazy and funny, but it's kind of perfect for a way to deal with the situation that the um, writer has created. Like, I guess the family that slays together stays together. I don't know, but a lot of ridiculous and funny things happen. So it feels almost like a crime caper film at the same time as this movie that's really exploring some intensely dark themes. So I guess that little edge of levity makes things more palatable in a lot of ways. It makes it more watchable, so it doesn't feel like you're being hit over the head with this incredibly sad story about domestic violence. You've got these layers to it, and the characters are in some ways caricatures of real people. So you've got that removal, that sense of distance that makes it like comfortable enough to watch. Um, the other thing that I really, really loved about the movie, other than the brilliant off kilter tone and just the storyline in general, is the fact that it is about Filipino Americans who are played by Filipino Americans, a film that was made by a Filipino American. I mean, it's a culture that is not often displayed on screen. I mean, I really can't think of that many Western films that feature characters of Filipino descent as your core cast. So that was really exciting to see. And I also loved the fact that, you know, the story really resonated with everyone. It's not a story about, as much as I appreciated the fact that it was a story by, about, and featuring Filipino Americans, the story was universal. It could have been anyone in playing those characters, really. Like, it's a theme that doesn't really know a color or a creed. As sad as that is to say, it's a theme that could be anywhere. So I loved both the cultural shout outs that the movie did, but also the thematic inclusiveness. So if you're just looking for something off the beaten path, it's a holiday movie. It's not a holiday movie. In any case, it's not like something that I would watch like gathered around the Christmas tree, but it is a movie that I would watch if you're looking for something challenging, if you like things that are darkly funny, if you like absurdist humor, and you just want something a little bit different. Bitter Melon, man, it's a great, great film. Absolutely need to check it out. All right, so those were my picks for our holiday grab bag of fun. I hope you found something in there that sounded interesting. As always, these movies are available entirely for free with the use of your Milan-Berlin library card. If you have any other phenomenal holiday movies that you want to recommend that we should absolutely be watching, comment with those below. I'm always looking for films to watch. If you want to recommend themes for us to cover in the future, comment with those too. that I definitely am always looking for, because coming up with themes can be a challenge. And with that, just thank you so much for watching. As always, I love giving out recommendations like this, and I love communicating with fellow film fans. So please, please let me know if there's anything that you want to see in the future. And with that, we're going to go ahead and close out this episode. Again, thanks for watching, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.